When a respected fire department battalion chief called 911 in the middle of the night, dispatchers believed they were responding to a tragic medical emergency. He told them his wife was having a seizure and had suddenly stopped breathing. But if that was true, why would a medical examiner later rule her death a homicide? And how did investigators go from treating the case as a possible medical crisis to charging the husband himself with murder? Those questions would lead to a courtroom trial that revealed a complicated marriage, a secret relationship, and forensic evidence that prosecutors said exposed the truth behind what really happened that night. The case centers on Kevin West and his wife Marcy West, who lived in Washougal, Washington. Kevin West had spent more than 2 decades working in emergency services and had been promoted to battalion chief with the Washougal Fire Department. The couple had been married for more than 20 years and had 2 adult children. To neighbors and co-workers, they appeared to live a quiet life in a small Pacific Northwest community. On January 8, 2024, everything changed. Shortly after 4:20 in the morning, Kevin West dialed 911. He told the dispatcher his wife was unconscious and appeared to be having a seizure. According to his account, she had stopped breathing and he had begun performing CPR while waiting for first responders to arrive. Emergency crews from the Washougal Police Department and the Washougal Fire Department responded to the call. Ironically, some of the firefighters arriving at the scene were West's own colleagues and friends. They attempted life-saving measures for several minutes, but those efforts were unsuccessful. Marcy West was pronounced dead shortly after emergency crews arrived. At first, the situation appeared to be a tragic but natural death. Kevin told investigators that the couple had spent the previous evening watching movies and eating takeout. He said Marcy had complained of a headache and vomited before going to bed, but had no known history of seizures or serious medical conditions. According to the account he gave investigators, he woke up during the night when their dog began whining. When he checked on Marcy, he claimed she was experiencing what appeared to be a seizure. He said he moved her onto the floor and began CPR while calling for help. But as investigators began documenting the case, something didn't add up. In the days following Marcy's death, several people contacted law enforcement expressing concern that the death might not have been natural. Friends and acquaintances reportedly told authorities they believed there were serious problems in the couple's marriage. Those tips prompted detectives to look more closely at the evidence. The Clark County Medical Examiner conducted an autopsy to determine the exact cause of death. The findings immediately raised serious questions. Instead of confirming a seizure or natural cause, the medical examiner identified trauma to Marcy West's neck. The official determination stated that the cause of death was asphyxia due to blunt trauma to the neck, and the manner of death was ruled a homicide. For investigators, that changed everything. The autopsy also documented injuries consistent with strangulation, including bruising beneath the jawline and hemorrhaging in the neck tissues. If Marcy had died from strangulation or suffocation, the explanation of a seizure could not account for those injuries. At that point, detectives began building a criminal case. The Washougal Police Department asked the Clark County Sheriff's Office to take over the investigation to avoid any potential conflict of interest because Kevin West worked for the same local department that responded to the scene. Investigators interviewed Kevin West multiple times and also examined cell phone data, messages, and other digital evidence. During the investigation, detectives reported finding inconsistencies between West's statements and other evidence gathered in the case. Then, another piece of the puzzle emerged. Detectives learned that Kevin West had been involved in an extramarital affair with a woman named Cynthia Ward. According to investigators, the two had known each other for years and had recently rekindled their relationship. Prosecutors later argued that the relationship had become serious and that Kevin West had been discussing leaving his marriage. Text messages and communications discovered during the investigation suggested he was considering moving out and potentially pursuing a future with his new partner. For investigators, this raised a possible motive. But motive alone is not enough to prove murder. Detectives continued gathering evidence and reviewing forensic findings. By March 2024, authorities believed they had enough evidence to make an arrest. Kevin West was taken into custody and charged with first-degree murder in connection with his wife's death. At the arraignment in Clark County Superior Court, West pled not guilty to the charges. His defense attorney described Marcy's death as a tragic and unexpected event and insisted that his client had not contributed to her death. West was later released after posting bail while the case moved toward trial. Over the following months, investigators and prosecutors continued preparing the case. Detectives gathered testimony from witnesses, analyzed digital evidence, and reviewed the forensic findings from the autopsy. When the trial finally began in Clark County Superior Court, prosecutors presented a clear theory to the jury. They argued that Kevin West killed Marcy so he could pursue his relationship with Cynthia Ward. According to the prosecution, the evidence showed he strangled Marcy and then attempted to stage the scene as a medical emergency by claiming she had suffered a seizure. The defense presented a very different interpretation. West's attorneys acknowledged the affair but argued that it did not mean he committed murder. They suggested that Marcy had experienced severe headaches and other health issues and that a medical event could have caused her death. The defense also suggested that events earlier that evening could have triggered a medical complication that led to her death. As the trial unfolded, jurors heard testimony from forensic experts, investigators, and individuals familiar with the couple's relationship. Medical experts described the injuries documented in the autopsy and explained why they believed the death was caused by asphyxiation rather than a natural medical event. Witnesses also testified about the state of the couple's marriage and the existence of the affair. One of the most closely watched moments in the trial came when Cynthia Ward herself testified. She told the court that she and Kevin had rekindled their relationship and that he had discussed leaving his wife. Prosecutors argued this demonstrated motive. The defense, however, urged jurors not to confuse marital problems with evidence of murder. Throughout the trial, Kevin West maintained his innocence. He insisted that he had tried to save his wife and that he had nothing to do with her death. After nearly 2 weeks of testimony, the case went to the jury. Jurors reviewed the evidence, including the autopsy findings, witness testimony, and the timeline surrounding Marcy West's death. Deliberations lasted about 2 hours before the jury reached a verdict. Kevin West was found guilty of both first-degree and second-degree murder in the death of his wife, Marcy West. The verdict stunned many people in the community where he had once served as a firefighter and paramedic. At the sentencing hearing in early 2026, the emotional impact of the case became clear as family members addressed the court. Members of the West family spoke about the devastating loss they had experienced. One of the couple's children asked the judge to consider Kevin West's past service and character, while another described the profound pain caused by losing their mother. The judge ultimately sentenced Kevin West to 25 years in prison for the murder. During the hearing, West continued to maintain that he did not kill his wife. He apologized for the affair, but insisted he had tried to save her life that night. For prosecutors, the verdict confirmed their argument that forensic evidence and careful investigation had revealed the truth behind what initially appeared to be a medical emergency. For the West family, however, the outcome left lasting grief. Friends of Marcy West said they believed justice had been served, but they also acknowledged the devastating impact the case had on the couple's children, who lost both parents in different ways through the tragedy. Today, the case is often cited as an example of how forensic evidence can transform an investigation. What began as a 911 call reporting a seizure eventually led investigators to uncover evidence that a jury concluded proved murder. And it all started with a single contradiction. A husband said his wife had suffered a seizure, but the autopsy told a very different story. Now, the question that continues to divide those who followed the case is this: did the evidence truly prove Kevin West's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt? Or do you think there are still unanswered questions about what happened inside that home on the morning of January 8, 2024? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you're interested in more real courtroom stories and investigations like this one, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next case. All information in this video is sourced from publicly available court records and reputable news outlets. This video is for educational and documentary purposes only.